How's it going, guys? I'm back. Even though I am fatigued, I am here to do some scheduled content for you because that is what needs to be done. And I need to get stuff out there before I go this next weekend to Cleveland because I care about you all and I know you want some stuff. So I'm going to do some stuff. Timestamp. Without further ado, I'm Devin, your friendly neighborhood board gamer, and this is Devin Talks Tabletop, a YouTube channel where the games are made up and what I say doesn't matter. Not the smoothest intro via Whose Line Is It Anyway, but I'll live with it. I have got some new stuff. I got some new digs. I bought some new hats because I like hats, but I do not like this slit at the back with that strap. So I got some that don't have that and are just kind of comfortable at a level that I don't need hair poking through a strap, dangling or getting tighter or looser. I'm just happy with these. So I'm pleased that that worked out. Also, I decided that I forgot how much I enjoyed hoodies. So I bought some hoodies. But I bought some hoodies with some fun things that I enjoy and care about. So if you recognize the stuff that I have on my hoodies, feel free to comment on them. It will just be an additional inside thing with me and you, in addition to timestamp and all the other goofy stuff that I occasionally do. This is just, popular culture level. Engage with me. Let me know your favorite thing about what my hoodies are talking about. And I will talk with you about that in the comments. Simple as can be. Also, I've been once again listening to Anything Goes by Emma Chamberlain, which is her podcast, and it's a famous YouTuber if you aren't familiar with her. And it got me thinking about how much I miss the podcast, the Quackalope podcast. And I was wondering, this is me throwing out a feeler. How many of you, and I know that there's some level of cross-pollination between people that view my stuff and people that view Jesse's stuff and Alex's stuff. But how many of you, whether you are familiar with the Quackalope podcast, would be interested in essentially a tabletop version of the Anything Goes podcast? Which is, it doesn't really have to have segmented features like it used to with the Shelf for Sale and I can't even remember the other sections. I edited it for a while, so I should remember the other sections, but I don't. But really, I'm just wondering, would you listen to a podcast of just one person? Because, I could bring in guests if they were interested, but the way that Anything Goes is, it's just her rambling. That's it. It's her rambling and choosing a topic for the week. Would you listen to that? I'm curious about the reception that would have. Is there an audience for me just picking a topic or a game or a board game adjacent thought and running with it for 30 to 45 minutes? Would you listen to that? Let me know, because I like podcasts. I think podcasts are one of my favorite things on like the creator side. I love just talking, especially with people. But the idea of just talking, I can just talk for a while. So let me know. I think at this point, there should be some transition to what this video is supposed to be based off the title. I've played some stuff, and I'm going to talk about them. Number one, Moonrakers. Moonrakers is the first game from Ivy Studios, who has recently published and fulfilled Veiled Fate, which I'm also going to talk about. And they have finished the campaign for Mythic Mischief on GameFound, and that's the next one that's coming out. But this is still relevant because it's still relevant because it's a good game, but it's also relevant because they've got expansions coming out for it, which are going to create forced elements and unique points that hone in on the negotiation and the player interaction side, which I think were some people's biggest critiques of this game. So this is my first impressions. I actually realize now, as I'm filming, that I don't remember what my structured talking points were for this video series. So I'm just going to ramble, and then either in between this video and the next, I'll look them up, or I will just ramble for every one of these videos. The thing I will do to be kind to you is I will try to create some timestamps that spatially and subject-wise interrupt my stream of consciousness. But Moonrakers is a competitive deck-building game set in a spacefaring universe. Players form a loose band of mercenaries that build temporary alliances to accomplish contracts, all vying to become the leader of the Moonrakers. This is a deck-building game in which all players start with the same 10 cards. And as with most deck-building games, each player will optimize, discard, trash, upgrade their deck in a unique way that by the end of the game, their deck looks nothing like somebody else's unless they happen to have optimized or pushed down the same path and taken similar cards. But for the most part, you're going to have a unique combination, and in a competitive environment, that can be useful, not useful, powerful, not powerful. In a cooperative environment, it's a little bit different. In a semi-cooperative environment, because each person is trying to be the first one to get up to 10 prestige in this game. But you can't just not work with other people. I mean, you can, but it will bottleneck and really slow down the experience in a non-optimal way for you to enjoy the game. The point of this game is to negotiate as much as you can until you absolutely cannot. When I played this with West and Jesse, when I'm not sure when that gameplay is coming up. It could be out already and I just haven't paid attention over the last 2 days. It could not have come out yet. But when it does come out, you'll see that we negotiated with each other up until I think all of us reached around Prestige 8. It was only those last 2 that we really stopped, because with the combination of the hazard dice and what you negotiate for, it can be a very beneficial and necessary part of the game. I could see where there are players, and that's to me probably, like, I am a big fan of Moonrakers and Veiled Fate. Moonrakers I've only played once, and I'm now happy that I have it after playing it once up in Cleveland. These are both, Mythic Mischief less so. Mythic Mischief, because it's an abstract type of game, you can get around the type of people that you play with. And that's not meant to sound a bad way. But Moonrakers and Veiled Fate are kind of dependent on heavy player interaction. Veiled Fate, you could play that game without really ever talking and having player interaction. But to me, it's a less shiny and less wholesome experience. The issue with heavy player interaction in games is then it matters what people you play with. If you play with people that don't want to engage in that style of play, you're going to have a different experience than you would otherwise. If you play this game and there are people that do not want to work with anybody, then they're going to hamstring themselves, they're going to hamstring the other players, and they're going to make the game stretch out longer and be less enjoyable. But if you have people that are willing to engage in what I would consider one of the core mechanics of the game, then you're going to have a good time, I think. I think it works as a deck building game because you can get the base cards that you have that you start with. You can get a couple upgraded versions of them, I think really for just the damage. But at the end of the day, you can also upgrade your ship, which doesn't factor into your deck. But you can acquire or recruit crew members, and that does go into your deck. So the crew members can really bring a unique element to this. My particular deck, when I played this, was very energy heavy. I think that's what it was. Oh, it just says action deck cards. But you need energy to do actions. And so I think it was actually a reactor card. I think that was the name of it. But it would allow you to do extra actions. And so I compiled my deck, along with my crew members, to do a bunch of actions and then to acquire a bunch of cards. And so if you acquire enough cards and have enough actions, then you can keep layering those together. And it was a very satisfying little engine that I created within my deck. I only trashed, I think, maybe 2 cards, but I just made a tight enough deck with that combination that it felt really good. And then also, we had a good time. And I guess part of this comes into the question of how much do you role play in a game? And I don't mean that in the sense where you literally lose yourself in a story versus the mechanics, but how much do you lean into the theme or immersive atmosphere of a tabletop game? And that's part of the fun for me. I'm part of the joy of Moonrakers when I played it the first time. Me, Jesse, and West, and how we played off of each other and how we were, absurdist and indignant and conciliatory in working with each other or not working with each other and lambasting each other the whole time. And the social narrative was part of the fabric of my experience. And that helped me enjoy it more. If you refrain from engaging in that social side of it because you aren't going to lean into the player interaction and you're just going to focus more on the mechanics, I think you're going to have a less than stellar perspective or opinion of this game or any other game that has that kind of element to it. Veiled Fate has some other ways that it mitigates that, but at the end of the day, it's once again just how much do you lean into the fact that you're playing with other people? Because I think a lot of Euro games or a lot of really abstract or mechanics heavy games can be played without really worrying who's sitting across the table from you. They could be the most gregarious person in the world. They could be the quietest person in the world. And as long as they're competitively working on their engine or their attempt at the mechanics of the game, that is what's pushing against you, is their results on the board. But in a game that has heavy player interaction, how you feed off of each other matters and can make or break your experience with a game. I really enjoyed that with Moonrakers. I'm also excited, though, because the expansions should point to or influence what some people really didn't like about the game. If you have mechanics that require you to abide by them, then you don't need that volunteer social engagement. What somebody offers up is then expected mechanically from some of the what I believe is in the expansions. So I'm interested to see how that functions, how that complements the game. Does it overtake or override the social element that exists in here right now? Or does it sit alongside it while kind of pulling by the neck anybody who, wasn't willingly going there the first time around? I'm interested to see what happens. My first impressions of Moonrakers are I cannot wait to play again. It's one that with certain people in the game groups that I, circle between, I could see myself enjoying it a lot. I had a great time, want to dive into it again, can't wait for the expansions, and I want to get some of the shiny. This is the Kickstarter exclusive edition, so it already has some shiny, but there's metal ships. And I want those metal ships because they seem very, very pretty. Really enjoyed what was here, though, and I think that I would try to explore other deck building combinations and see how that felt. And also, something that I've learned from Jesse is that sometimes you can just bluff. And I mean, I like bluffing games, but I don't mean bluffing. I just mean lying in order to create chaos or talking hot air. I'm trying to find a way to articulate that as amusingly and also calmly as possible. He's an agent of chaos, and it's created some fun moments. I think some people would be frustrated by that element in a game, but it's been memorable. Timestamp. All right, Moonrakers, first impressions. Want to play again? Had a really good time the first time, and has made Ivy Studios one of those studios that every single thing they've done has been a hit for me. I like Moonrakers. I like Veiled Fate. I enjoy Mythic Mischief. So all three of them are wins, and that is a point of appeal or attachment to them as a studio that I have enjoyed all of the games. Moonrakers is a win for me. I really don't remember at all any structural level that I had developed for this. It's probably somewhere on a notepad that I wrote down with pencil and paper, and I now cannot think of it in the slightest, but I don't care. We're just going to keep pushing forward. That's what I think about Moonrakers. If you've played, let me know what you think. If you haven't played, if you have questions that I didn't answer that you want clarification on, feel free to add those to the comments. If there are other titles that you can think of that you want first impressions on, or you want me to potentially buy if I don't already have it, or if I do have it, you want kind of a games I got focus on it, happy to do that. Just write those down in the comments and I will respond to them. Yeah, I think we're ready to move on. All right, I'll see you guys later, and think about what I said in terms of games, clothes, podcasts, all of that stuff. I'll see you next time.